Shabbat Shalom and welcome to the community of Victoria in Guatemala. Translating to English. Hi, thanks for that translation to English into English. We have the context of our parasha by Hanan. It's praise. That's what actually it means. Moshe prays to enter into the promised land. At least he wanted to see where actually he worked for 40 years to take these people of Israel to that promised land. We're going to talk about it today. We have the invitation to keep the commandments and not to add or remove anything on them, in them. That's why we cannot, as Ephraim, being agreed with the 613 commandments. Actually, they are not 613 commandments. If we accept that, we are not being clear by we will be broken this mitzvot that we don't have to add and remove anything on those commandments. The prohibition to idolatry, not kitchen or rabbit. When we are take so a lot of people talk about that we cannot mix the milk of the sheep, all the chicken. So if we admit that, we will be breaking this specific commandment of not adding more commandments to the Torah. When we take something away, we are saying that we are not agree or we don't like what the Lord has already said on the Torah. We have also the prohibition to idolatry. So in somehow this is being focused on this part because in the Moria month it says that he didn't see any image. So sometimes we have an idea of what happened in that day. So it is just something that maybe we like to do an image of something that doesn't have any image. So that is not an image at all. That's why the image is totally prohibited. It talks about the exile. Moshe, as a very good teacher, he knows he knew what kind of people that actually was following him by name and last name, and he knew that they wouldn't be able to stay for a long time on the promised land. Moshe talks about the cities of refuge. We have also the 10 words. There is a variation on how the Torah present them in Shema 20. Here it says, Yahweh Elohim said, in a way to administrate the justice in a totally different way. The mercy becomes before the justice. If not, we won't be able to justice to put it in a judge a son for 18 years, like a kid for 4 or 5 years. Moshe reminds them of the fear of the people when the Eternal said the 10 words. Because we were, well, in that case, the people of Israel, they were afraid of those 10 words that the Lord said. In this function, that is being in the middle between Moshe and the Lord. Shema Israel, This become this became to be the first and very or the most important commandment or commandment that the Lord has given us. That's why us we going forward or keep the commandments that the Lord has given us by um, warning us that it will be and does not lead to the idolatry in a land that they didn't work for things that they didn't work for at all because the Lord gave that to them. We have a warning to do not mix us with other people, with other persons, so that way we won't be able to be influenced by others, with other gods, with other customs, with another culture, a totally different way to do the things. That's why we have a prohibition in a mixed marriage, because before they were not a way to turn the people, or in this case, a woman, into the people of Israel. The only way to do that was by getting married with a man from Israel. So if a woman becomes to a man, she is taking a lead. She's taking a boss, and she needs to follow the customs, all the traditions, in order to turn into a people of Israel, to become to be to this people of Israel. It looks like the verse that is in Bereshit when it talks about Adam and Eva to become only one body. So we need to remember that. And sometimes it looks like the the time to do the things. Sometimes they are um, in a different thought. But now our base text is in Devarim 3:25. Let me pass, I beg you, to complete the good land that is on the other side of the Jordan, that beautiful mountain range in the Lebanon. He's actually asking and praying a lot. As we have talked before, he was a man that, since our point of view, he has the merit, or he has all the facts, because he worked 40 years for that land, for that promised land. And unfortunately, he was not able to see that promised land. He wasn't able to see that fruit of everything that he has worked. I can think that he was able to have the merit to go into the promised land, but he wasn't. Rabbi Sukkot says in analogy, the good ground is altruism. Moshe wanted to see the altruism inside the people of Israel. To transcend the Jordan is to overcome the descents. It's in a similitude with the word Jordan, with a Yerida, that it's like a descent. It's going down after going up, after the so after all the things that unfortunately the people of Israel they did not run, and Moshe wanted to see them to overcome the descents, that good mountain in place of the temple. He wanted to see that place, since where it is possible to see the Lebanon. Lev becomes, it's from the heart. It's from the bottom of your heart, the deepest of the heart, Lev. Those are words from Rabbi Sukkot word. In a different point of view, before more than Pesach, it is the altruism. It's to see that place that will be instead of the temple. But what is the answer from the Lord? There is no way. Maybe later, I don't know. I'm gonna think about it. As the seller says, today I'm gonna be wrong with you because I don't have it. Again, the Torah itself show us and tell us that Moshe has a limit. Moshe, as a Torah icon, he has a limit. And unfortunately, Moshe, he cannot go over that limit. Moshe is just an instrument as a Torah, and he showed that to the people of Israel. And the ones that actually has to go for it for this Torah is the people of Israel. The Torah give us the the process or the line that we have to go forward over that Torah. And this is the problem with the Judaism because their heart, their faith is on the study of the Torah itself. But on the Torah, there is no way to take them to the promised land. It just says how you can go to it, just the land, but it doesn't take you directly to that promised land. There is something else that takes you to that place. Apparently, Moshe has done his job and he couldn't do more for these people. Just to show the way, the road, like there is that place, but I won't be able to go to that place for you guys. Moshe, icon of the Torah, that was the last thing he made. That's why I keep repeating, based on Wainwright, in the book. Let's see. I don't remember if it's in this book or another one, but it tells us that that's why Moshe has to go to talk to Yehoshua. Yehoshua means salvation or U.S. salvation. The that name has a number value that it's that actually takes us to the other world. Yehoshua ben Nun, he showed us a Mashiach that came from the other world to take us to that place. Something that unfortunately the Torah cannot do for us. Moshe has a limit. He made his goal, but he cannot go over it. Definition of idolatry is making of the way a final goal. We cannot make of the Torah of the story of the Torah and idolatry is in idolatry as that is the main goal. When actually no, the Torah also has the main limits, and it only show us the road, the doors, but the one that actually will take us to another place will be a different person. Today, it says Devarim 4:26. Today, I testified against you, the heavens and the earth, that you will inevitably perish from the earth where you are going. So it means he is taken to that place and they will go for it, but they won't be stay for a lot of time in that place. He knows that that happiness that they had at that time wouldn't be for a long time. Crossing the Jordan to inherit it, you will not prolong your days in it, for you will be totally destroyed. Yahweh will scatter you among the people, and you will be few in number among the nations to which Yahweh will lead you. So here we are. We are the consequence of this. That's why we are where we are. That's why the people call us crazy. Israelites, that we eat patches, we curriculum internal in Guatemala. That is going to be in our madness, in our this desert of the nations where we have grown up. It doesn't exist. And look, we're going to learn about this language. The language itself, there is no one that is perfect. Language is the interaction between reality and our perception of reality. That's why Konkalas, that translate the Tanakh, to the Greek idiom language in very sheet 2:7 that the Lord formed or create the man from the land. It traduces literally a person that is able to talk because the Lord made a person that actually perceives something that the animal doesn't, or the animals that do not do that. So this the language is the consequence of understand something. That's why Adam was able to talk since the same day he was formed. He wasn't a person that was learning how to talk like saying a or let's take that just to the schools. We believe that our words convey an identical image, so that something that we refer to, but it is not like that. When we explain something, we think that we are transmitting something exactly how we perceive it, but it doesn't, because the language itself it's not perfect. When the listener doesn't have experience similar to those who narrates them, he will capture an image distant from the really transmitted. I was taking an example to the young people in the morning. We have here a hub. Let's suppose that he has a problem with something because he's a doctor. So he was telling us what happened, the experience with technique words, and we were looking for a dictionary as we do with the Torah. This word means this, and it's this and this and this. And he tried to tell us or to show us an image of what a have is telling us. But as you and me, we have never taken a history or we haven't taken a body human inside. As long as I have seen, it's just a circumcision, it's just to cut. But as we don't have a similar experience to what he has, when he transmits his experience, there is not something in us that will help us to understand and generate that image very similar to him of what he's telling us. So our perception of image, it's just that here that relates he's telling us is gonna be totally different from the one that he wants to transmit us with the language. If he tell us this experience to another doctor with some that he has already talked, for sure this doctor is gonna understand what he's trying to transmit because this doctor has that experience or even the same experience, and that experience help him to understand what he's saying. There is a link on this situation. That's why the language just evokes. It means that it wants to bring something to our minds. But if we don't have in our experience educational something similar to that, that language is gonna issue an image totally different. When Rabbi Sukkeward told us about that the language, it's just a talk in order to make us think, but it's not actually really, it's not from reality at all. That is not even close to that. That's why they use language that evokes symbolic. But what happened with this individual, in this case us, we can, based in our education on what we were before on this world of the absolutism that the people of Israel trying to let us know, or in order to understand that, that person is not gonna to understand that. So This is the problem that we have with the language. When we don't have experience in ourselves conform or based on the reality that someone wants to transmit us. When the listener doesn't have experiences similar to those who narrates them, he will capture an image totally distant from the transmitted reality. Let's imagine that Moshe has a perception. The book of Devarim tell us the perception that Moshe had in the relation with the Lord, face to face. And he said, you're not gonna make any image of anything. Why? Because in Horeb, you just heard a voice, but you never see anything. So do not make an image. Years later, they are idolatrating the snake that the Lord told them to put up, to build up. They didn't understand it, but why? Because of what the Moshe lived for the people of Israel, it was totally strange. When we don't have an experience to the one that is telling us something, the image that the words generates for us is gonna be totally different. So now, our language, in the majority of the times, in most of the cases, is structured from what we know, but also from what we think we know. Because sometimes we talk about things that we don't know anything. We look like expert on politicians in a totally different topic, but actually we don't know anything. So we talk about something we think we know. The problem is that the language activates a memory. But if we don't have that experience that we evoke from nothing, it's not gonna work for anything. In my case, let's suppose that I'm trying to teach to go or to live a life based in injustice, and it requires to make or to build the garden in our home, to having health, emotional, psychological. But what happens if I don't live that? If I don't have that experience? If I don't know what is this, what the marriage is about? If I haven't done happy my wife, if my sister, if my daughters are not happy at home, so my words are just trying to transmit something that I mean doesn't exist. Imagine that image that we will transmit or reproducing to each of you. It's more distorting it, or is not the one he wants to transmit it. When the other people listen and that person has an experience similar, that person or try or start to make those changes, that person will start to understand what the other one is talking about. That's why there is comprehension. There has to be that experience. If not, the language is not going to evoke anything. Two people, two persons that are talking something or the doctrine that they say they have, they wouldn't be talking about it, because who's going to discuss your life? Nobody's going to discuss something that is true for you. That's why it's laid out an experience. Mashiach, he is our life. It's the Mashiach in us that make us the language of the Torah evoke a memory, an experience in our interior that manage to capture the exact image that the Torah transmits. Because when Moshe tries to transmit and he is inside me through the Mashiach, at that moment I'm understanding. Let's suppose a man has a selfish heart dominated for the Yasar Hara. It's a mean, it's mean, total mean. Moshe talks about love to the other people. Moshe talks about the altruism. Moshe talks about the 10 words, but that person is not going to understand. If he understand for a time, the image that he will understand, that he will catch, would be different because there is nothing inside this main person to the reality for the Moshe, the one he wants to transmit with the language of the Torah. That's why we and read, and we do not understand. Remember what? Um, do you remember what Rab Shaul says? Corinthians 14:17. Because until this time, you read the pact that was before, and you don't understand it because you are blind. Talking about the Judas people. But when you becomes to the Mashiach, you will be able to see because he is the spirit, and where is the spirit, there is freedom. What it means, the being free with the comprehension. What what is the link between free with being free and the comprehension? Does anybody have an idea? It would be reasonable to say because when you become to the Mashiach, you will be able to see because the Mashiach will give you the ability to understand. Because the Mashiach will give you intelligence. Because with the Mashiach, you will be able to learn why it talks about being free. Because an slave won't be able to serve the Lord. Because a slave doesn't understand what the Torah wants to transmit us. That was a problem between Moshe and the rest of the people of Israel. Because the whole people of Israel was a slave, but he wasn't. It's like when an entrepreneur is talking to a slave that he, when an entrepreneur is telling to another person, make your own company and do the things you want to do. I will borrow money if you want. But that person is not going to take that because that person still wants to work for someone instead of working for him. That's what happened. We read the Torah and we don't understand it. It could be maybe we think we understand it, but there is no anything in us similar to what the Moshe has at that time. Mashiach is that experience in our inside that serve in that way we will be able to understand when it talks about loving their other people, when it talks about no idolatry, when it talks about the altruism, and we understand that because there is something inside us, and that is the Mashiach. Without the Mashiach, the language of the Torah doesn't evoke anything in our inside us. I'm telling you exactly the same as I have, and I was artery 47, as Ahab was telling us. And the doctor understand that, and he's excited about it. But you're okay, I don't, okay, or are you gonna do something with it? We don't understand it. That is exactly the people that doesn't have Mashiach, and they don't have an experience of that Ein Sof inside their heart, and they don't understand. Or it generates an image totally different, and he thinks he understands, but when he talks, he doesn't have an experience that back up those words. And the image that it creates to the other one would be worse because we don't have a model to follow up. Remember that in all school of learning, in the first step, we'll learn with the example. If you don't have someone to see, a teacher to tell you how to treat your woman, and that you will believe it, if you don't have a son that teach you with the example how to follow up your debts, if you don't have a wife that teach you how to treat the man, how to treat his children, the learning would be impossible. Everything will be just theoric. The language is here, just in the air. But as nobody has that experience, as no one, it's free. That's the interesting thing. The one that is not free of the Yasser Hara, the one that is not free from his instincts and emotions would understand. And we were talk about, but that person would never understand. When I tell you gotta make happy your wife, the first one that has to be happy is the head. We need to look for draws and apples in order to teach to another people. We need to um, those are the sometimes the instruments that will look when we teach to someone. That's why the years and from the years there has been the Torah, the Tanakh. It has they were studied already, and there are a lot of religions because each one generates an image that is not right because that's what they don't have in their heart, at least a little of what the Moshe was talking about in that reality. And they don't go into the promised land. They talk about it. They talk about peace, but they are angry. They talk about respect, but in their home, the respect is not even a word. So then what? Everything it's just in the air. It just a theory and philosophy, but it's not a reality. It's needed the experience to really generate that image, that correct image. So that's why the images reproduced in ourselves would be totally different from what the person is talking about us. That this is the interesting thing. When you begin, when you begin admiration and respect for your husband, or when your wife begins to feel some feelings, as in Colombia says, sometimes in Colombia they say uh, that we feel like the woman we feel that a man takes care of us just a little, just a little. So when I talk, they understand because they have experience similar to me, and we can continue growing up together. But when you don't respect each other in home, and I talk about respect, love, and happiness, you just stay just like that because you don't understand anything. And when you are asked what was the Torah, the Parasha about, I ask five different persons what was the Parasha about, and they tell me totally a different thing that actually I wanted to say because they don't have experience similar to me. Each person understand his and their Parasha. So in order to do more Parashat, I will do a Parashat, and that way we will have 5, 7 comments from that Parasha because everybody understand that different thing. The human beings tend to justify what give us security, what make us confident in ourselves. Thus, we confuse our experience of truth with objective truth. For example, being under Christendom, faith is understood as if being focused on something that I think or something that I want to trust in. And when we were when we are in the Christianism, we cannot resonate because if I don't believe that there is not something, then I'm doing the wrong. When we become here, when we came here, we think that the truth is one, and it doesn't matter what I think. So our mind it's opened to all the possibilities. So we study and our knowledge becomes more and more and more and more opened, we tend to, let's suppose that at all level or your life on the Christendom, you come to understand that you were wrong. And somehow now you are not confident because you have taught that to your children, to your wife, to other people, but now you have to tell them that we were wrong. It's okay. But your son is gonna tell it on your wife, but now what we're gonna believe? I don't know. That's that doesn't give us security. And being afraid make us not going forward. That's why we tend to justify what give us security. Because learning things new, to being brave, to evaluate that what until so far we have a truth, absolute truth that creates insecurity. And that, I mean, being afraid make us don't going forward. And that's how we mix our truth, I mean, the real truth with that objective truth. The image that we create in our mind based on the experience that we lived, as they are the result of the interaction of reality. Our perception, that is going to depend of the education and experience that we were being before, and the language through which we describe it. That is the image that we're going to create. If you cannot explain any something, it's because you haven't understand the topic or what actually you want to talk about. Our perception of reality is constituted on posterity in a second time from adjustment of reality. When you saw something, you were exposed to something, and after that, you analyze and you judge what you have seen, and then you create a perception. But there is something, but there is a first perception, the first object from which where the perceptual genesis arises, the pursuit of fullness. There is something that generates everything in our self. It's the desire, is that force to go back again where we were before. That's the beginning. Do you remember the Rishimo? Do you know what is Rishimo? Okay, we already know what is Rishimo. When the Mashiach came, for example, he is the light of the world. I just want to confirm, okay? Because if you don't believe he is the light of the world, then we became again that we don't have a experience with what I'm telling them. So Mashiach, he is the light of this world, and he left. What he lived, what he left here, there it's a regime. It's the sensation of what was before, what was here in this world, and it generates an anxiety or more like a desire to take it away, to feel how we were feeling before when he was here. But there is a first perception, the first object from which the perceptual genesis arises, the search of being fullness. The experiences that we have, they will never stay. We are not going to go again to that fullness because if we were there, we will stop existing. We always have a perception, subjective from the reality. The motivation, the first motivation, archetypal, essential motivation that move us, unless you're awake inside. The soul comes outside the insult, the insult. So here it is limitless. Perception, here is perception. Here down in the word inferior, we will never have a perception of the insult as it is, unless there is something from that Ein Sof in our side, inside us. So in that time, when we hear or when someone talks about the Ein Sof, we will understand because there will be something, there will be someone receiving those words. When I saw a vasectomy as the operation that Hab was talking about, I never did it, but I saw it. So I was able to understand a little bit more. When I assist a doctor of a vasectomy, I understand more. When I when someone talks to me about Ein Sof, I will understand in a way or in yeah somehow if that Ein Sof is inside of me. The life it's a constant search for that fullness, that harmony called by each person in a different way. It is an archetypal desire that unlimitedly is nothing but the longing for in us the Mashiach. That's why when I talk to you, when I tell you in Yom Kippur that we that it's valid being happy, just the one that were actually they were asking actually for to be forgiven in that night will be happy. The one that hasn't understood the feast at all, they wouldn't be able to understand. They will continue. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not a right person. I'm sorry. And I said, okay, it's done. The Mashiach is in us. We will be justified already. We do not do the wrong things. So stop telling sorry. It is valid, feeling good, grateful with the Lord for everything He has done with us. Because all the days we, so stop asking me, saying sorry, but just the one that has changed the life, just the one that has the experience of the one I'm talking about, the one that is inside me, that person will understand me. That's the Mashiach inside us. That's why we understand the Torah because of what we talks about. He talks about. Remember what the Mashiach says. Um, of me, Moshe talks about. So if he is inside me, the words that Moshe says, they will make a sound. They will do. They will be noisy in our inside. So if you see an interpretation of the Torah, no, you will think like, no, how do you will be able to understand that? But it's because that person doesn't have the Mashiach inside. As we say here in Guatemala, just by saying a comment that nobody asked for. So we need to be very strict with with the people that they want to destroy or they want to give a different point of view of the Torah. The lack of Mashiach in our lives, in us, leave us exposed to fantasies that exert a powerful suggestive force. We start to imagine, but as we don't have that experience, whatever we could imagine, whatever or interpretation of the Torah will be possible. But why? It's because there is not that experience. As a person before told me one time, I'm sorry, rap, but I'm not gonna ask a lot to my wife. I don't know why she is not happy. When I married her, I told her all I want to ask will be my plate of food, and I wouldn't ask for more. So I said, so why did you marry her? So in that case, you will, just to pay a different person to to help him with that. I don't know how to talk to how to refer to that person. Maybe a fool, because that person doesn't understand when we have experience. We we talk about a change of life, but that person doesn't understand. So, and the woman is not staying with him. That's not the Torah. So they cannot understand us because there's nothing inside them. Moshe told them, so far the Lord hasn't give you eyes to, but you don't see, ears but you don't hear. So that's what he was talking about. So then the theories create fantasies, images that arouse beliefs, and superstitions that captive us, becoming able to completely dominate us, the religions. That's why we became without Torah, without Mashiach. We're not talking about a person that doesn't believe in Mashiach. It's a person that doesn't know what the Torah talks about. Because that person doesn't believe in reality, and that person doesn't understand what he's being talked about. And he thinks and he imagines and everything. It just evokes and it creates a religion. He's a mean because the wife and the children doesn't want to be that with that person anymore. But I, but that person doesn't see how he's being totally the opposite to the Torah. I talk about a power that is supernatural that transformed him into a different person, but he's sleeping in the parasha. He doesn't understand that because he doesn't hasn't experienced something similar to me. And I talk about it, I swear it, and I cry, and I move, but that person doesn't understand that. My words my words don't go on the heart of that person because for him it looks like Walt Disney, but that's the truth. Those are illush. They are the illusions that eclipse true love, the idolatry that condense the Torah. This is their relation. So they think that what they sense transmit them, it's the truth. How many times us, the men, when the women's the our wives make a feast, so we go to the market and we buy a lot of avocados, and when we see them inside they are not good. I remember that Yarmiajo one time we were on the road and we were taking I was touching the fruit, but I in the illusion, or I was pretending to know to that actually I know what I was purchasing, but I didn't. So how many times the people that we know, we think they are sympathetic, that they are good persons, but actually when we see them inside, they are they are not good. A marriage like them, I would like to have, but when they arrive to the home, they start to fighting each other. So what is that about? So what we see our eyes is not the reality. That's why endeavoring for 15. So diligently guard your souls, for not figure yourself the day when you were spoke to you in Horeb, in the midst of the fire. Do not make an image. Do not go over your sins, tell you. Lest you corrupt yourself and make a sculpture image of some idol in the form of a man or a woman. In our parashat, Moshe insists and he keep talking about do not making a image. So it means that our sense, they don't have to be our guide, or being sensitive So we need to change the sensors that we have in order to catch the reality, not the our eyes, not our ears, not our hands. That's why we have prohibit. We're not allowed to make an image. Intelligence, intelligence. Remember, the Lord doesn't have sons, full sons. Repeat that every day. The Lord doesn't have full sons. Maybe you will wake up with that. The intellect. It's the tool to discern or to understand the spiritual things. Deborah 4:6. Observe, talking about the commandments, and practice them for it. Constitutes your wisdom. Chokmah is the word. And your understanding, Bina, in the sight of the nations, which will sight of the nations, which will hear of all this status, and will say, in truth, this great nation, it's a wise people and understood, not a fool. If that person is doing the wrong things and that person continues doing those things, there is no word for that person anymore. Have you ever feel that feeling of hitting someone because that person doesn't want to understand the things? So sometimes we need to give advice to that person, but that person doesn't understand us. What we have as a home, if we want to lose it every day, there's no more words for that person. Remember the words from Isaiah? The people doesn't understand. And then why we cannot compare the sons, but the Lord compare us with animals. Chokhmah and Bina. Chokhmah is the Sephira number second. And Bina is the third one. What is before Chokhmah and Bina? Keter. And what's Keter? Keter is what it's before Chokhmah and Bina. Also, this Keter generates them. Remember the wise in chapter 8, I guess, Proverbs? It was before the mountains were formed. I was with him. That's the Mashiach. Without the Mashiach, I don't understand anything. I don't have wise. I cannot be wise person. I don't have intelligence. The Torah make us intelligent. Where the Torah says, where in the Torah says that smoke, it's it's something that is wrong based on the Torah. Imagine that person that the Torah he needs that the Torah says do not smoke. Where is the intelligence? Where is the being wise? So the Torah give us doors that take us to the promised land. But I have to do something. There is something more those letters. It's like a person that it cannot eat sugar, like a diabetic person, and that person eats cake. And we think, hey, thank you. Hello, there's somebody there? The sugar makes you is doesn't give you health. So what else we can do? And I think, and I have something in my on my health. So sometimes we give advice and advice to all the our prisons, the people that is around us, but they are not intelligent because they don't follow those advices. The intelligence is the tool that the Lord has given us to stay here in this world. What it's more than our sense is that intelligent. That's why we cannot be fools. That's why we cannot be slaves. Slaves are what? Of fears, of the anger, selfishness. All of those eclipse the intelligence. I know what is right. I know what is correct. I know what hurt me, but I keep doing the things that hurt me that are not good for me. I see the face of my wife sad, and I keep going by not making her happy. Because all of this, the precision, loves of team, the emotions, feelings, all of them eclipse the intelligence. I know what is correct, but we are fear, but we have low self confidence, and we became fools talking in a spiritual way. That's why our life doesn't change. That's why the Torah talks it to us, but we don't understand. That's why we have years studying Torah, and my woman she is verifying if I'm gonna ask for the divorce or if she wanna kill me. I mean, why? It's because all of the Lord says, and I repeat again, until this day when you read the pack that was before, you doesn't understand it because you are blind. But when you have the Mashiach inside you, you won't be able to see because he is the spirit. And where is a spirit, there is free. But being free of what? Being free of the Yasser Hara, of the emotions that are generated when our perception is directed by our feelings and our sense. A person that is dominated by the feelings is not intelligent. All the feelings that are produced by a perception based on what our sense gave us, they eclipse the intelligence. To give birth to our intelligence, we must overcome all those feelings and emotions. And that cannot be possible if we don't have the Mashiach inside us. That's why the one that doesn't have Mashiach inside of their heart, they doesn't understand me. And they will know they wouldn't be able to understand my my classes. The greater mastery of feelings and emotions we have more will eliminate our intelligence. We have in Luke 22:42, Father, if you want, remove this cup from me, but not my will, but yours. So who's the one that follows His Majesty Yeshua? But because he also said, do you want to drink the cup with me? In other words, so as there is life, there is also a sacrifice. And the one that believes in him, do we love the will of the Lord as he did? That's the easy one. What about if I ask a man, have you studied the Torah? Give me 5 descriptions of what a man should be. 5 characteristics of a man, of a husband that it's on the Torah. Lover, stable. A man is stable, not saying today one thing and tomorrow another one. A provider, and a person that is attent, someone that is empathetic with their wife, with all the things that they have to do, or when you have the coffee and you have your sugar and you said something like, can you put sugar in my coffee? What the wife feels when the man has the coffee, the sugar, and all that in the table to put sugar on the coffee. But that person asked to the wife, what do you feel? What do you think about it? So if the Lord, that's what he wants from us, we need to die as long, we need to die so that we can be a different person. As Mashiach gave his own life to make of the will of the Lord to complete it. So that way that reality will be completed in us. He I need to be exactly as he was. So now your five characters of a good wives. Lover, lovely, comprehensive, mercy, prudent. So imagine those five descriptions that you must be. If you are not like that, it's because you haven't understood it yet. It's because what we talk here, you don't receive it. And you take the own words of the Torah to yell to your husband. So, what are we talking about then? That's why we cannot pretend, study, and loving the will of the Lord if we are not able to put that into practice. Why it works for if we don't put in practice that? Being dominated by our emotions and instincts as animals, we pretend to be man, but we only live a fantasy. We proclaim a divine nature, but there is nothing further from the truth, at least from the people that is around us. Having a family whose happiness and a spiritual worth depends on us, we are not able to fulfill. So, having a family whose happiness and spiritual growth depends on us, we are unable to fulfill our responsibility, which at the same time is the divine will. And we say we love that divine will. And we came here to complete that divine will, but we are incapable to fulfill those responsibilities. We want to be respected as men, as husbands, and parents, but we are not able to love by fulfilling all their material, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual needs, because we cannot overcome our instincts and emotions because we succumb to the seduction of any prostitute disguised as a woman in love or to muscular and handsome character, even if he is not rotten inside, a dependent of a daddy and mommy. What is the use of knowing how the Lord wants us to educate our children if our fears prevent us? Our love cell is instead of waiting to be seen as a super parents, we are not able to educate that children as the Lord wants. What it does it work for a woman to see a woman pretty good with nails decorated, but if that person is not intelligent and she doesn't want to, she cannot talk. I mean that person doesn't work us, doesn't serve us. That's why when a woman is worried about that appearance, and I tell you just as a man, just for short of time. Because for a wife, we want a woman wise, respectful, with all that you have said before, as Proverbs, as in Proverbs 31. So why? What is this work? What is gonna work for us if we don't have that ability to do all the things? So the Mashiach, those words evoke a harmony in our life, but at the same time, as a source of power to recreate that reality that the Torah speaks, and it's within me through my actions. We know the type of man and woman and father that Lord wants us to be, and we have to do it. But without the Mashiach, we won't be able to do it. That would be impossible. And we'll be here Shabbat or Shabbat to Shabbat talking about, and the same problems will be at home, and the same problems with our children will stay because we talk about something that it's totally strange for them. So the Lord, I hope that He has mercy with all the Ephraim, so we can have that experience of that overnatural, supernatural experience that the Lord tell us, so we can understand that, and that way that way we'll be able to understand the Torah and the correct heart and the correct feeling with the correct harmony. So let's pray.
Podemos salvarnos y libertar, poder llevarnos de la mano de Dios ante el lugar, para que esas palabras
Y aquí que está atrasada.
palabras dadas por el poder sea cumplida en esta generación. Gracias, esperamos por ti. Ayúdanos a que amar tu voluntad más que a nosotros mismos, más que a nosotros, más que a nosotros mismos. Porque ya más que a nosotros mismos. Gracias. Amén.
Ha sido muy